Nigeria and China strengthen ties on trade and infrastructure.
Nigerian government moves to boost agriculture with distribution of 2,000 tractors across the country.
Something that will attract the young and also women into agriculture.
No room for fractions in the education sector, federal government declares.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall examine human metapneumovirus.
All right, so are we back at it again? About 5 years ago, the world was brought to its knees by devastating effect of a pandemic that left in its wake thousands dead and many traumatized.
Indeed, Claire, one can never forget the episode in Ahari, better known as the coronavirus pandemic or COVID-19. This virus, caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, began in Wuhan, China in December 2019. However, it spread to other areas of Asia and then other parts of the world in early 2020.
Absolutely, and it's very to compel the World Health Organization, WHO, to declare the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern, and that was precisely on January the 30th, 2020. Now, years after, the aftermath of COVID-19 lingers, with more vibrant like Omicron, I'm sure we all remember, Delta and Alpha, among others that, of course, sprang up at the time, creating uncertainty all over the world.
But it seems we might not hear the end of respiratory infections, as again, China is in the news for an emergence of another health concern called human metapneumovirus, HMPV, according to reports. Cases have been surging in China, particularly among children. Already, the country's Center for Disease Control is warning residents to take precaution on health and hygiene.
Not just in China, it's also gotten to India, Malaysia, and other parts of the world. And, the question you might want to ask is, what is this, again, human metapneumovirus? Well, according to experts, it's a respiratory disease that causes flu or, cold-like symptoms, but can increase the risk or lead to more serious complications like bronchitis or pneumonia. Now, there are studies that show that the disease is in the same family as the respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, and has been around since at least 2001. Actually, that was in the Netherlands.
Records indicate it was first identified in the Netherlands, like Claire said, with the outbreaks mostly concentrated during colder seasons. Although Chinese authorities are assuring that this doesn't seem serious, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, says the country is strengthening national vigilance amid rising global concerns over human metapneumovirus and implementing preparedness measures as well as response capacity to tackle the virus should it emerge.
And we keep our fingers, it shouldn't emerge here. But what should we know about this human metapneumovirus and how serious is it? Well, we'll attempt to answer critical questions with our array of experts who will join us later on the program. And of course, with all the details emerging, we hear that China have yet to tell us what is HMPV, because that's where it started. It's always been there according to them. Anyway, we'll learn more about this seemingly new virus much later in the program. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak. Thank you for joining us this Friday.
I know that the HMPV may not be an interesting, topic in itself, but Good Morning Nigeria will be interesting, so we expect you to stay with us. I'm Yanwei John. Welcome to the program. As usual, we'll bring a newspaper review, but that's much later. For now, let's join Musa Abubakar for the morning news. Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning, Neri. Good morning, Claire. And here's the news. President Bola Tinubu has made a strong case for strengthening economic ties between Nigeria and China, urging the Chinese government to increase the $2 billion currency swap agreement between the two nations. This move aims to boost trade and facilitate smoother transactions. During his meeting with Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi at the State House, President Tinubu emphasized the importance of enhancing trade relations between Nigeria and China. He also called for a review of the $50,000 aid package for Africa announced by Chinese President Xi Jinping last year. In a significant move to strengthen bilateral ties, Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga to reaffirm their commitment to boosting relations between the two nations. The meeting comes as 4 key agreements between Nigeria and China are currently in various stages of implementation, paving the way for a more constructive and mutually beneficial strategic partnership. The visit is a follow-up to Tuga's official working visit to China in June, where he delivered a keynote address at the China-Nigeria Business Exchange aimed at easing bilateral trade and investment with over 200 Chinese companies seeking to collaborate with Nigeria. The meeting between Wang Yi and Tuga is expected to further solidify the country's economic ties and foster greater cooperation in key areas.
And cultural exchange.
My visit this time is to further the tradition of the Chinese foreign minister visiting Africa as the first overseas visit of the new year.
The Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, has presented a positive outlook on the country's economic performance, highlighting significant gains from President Tinubu's economic policies. Addressing the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Minister Edun cited notable achievements, including increased foreign reserves, a stable foreign exchange market, reduced deficits, and lower debt servicing costs. During the engagement, which focused on the 2024 budget performance and the 2025 budget outlook, the minister expressed confidence that the federal government is well positioned to sustain its economic growth trajectory in 2025, leveraging the successes of the past year to drive further progress.
Whose financial implications are realistic and realizable.
President Bola Tinubu has launched a major initiative to revolutionize Nigeria's agricultural sector, authorizing the procurement and distribution of 2,000 tractors to boost farming activities nationwide. This move is part of the federal government's tractorization program aimed at enhancing food and nutrition security through mechanized farming. The program seeks to increase agricultural productivity, reduce drudgery for farmers, and promote economic growth, with an initial target of acquiring 10,000 tractors and 50,000 assorted equipment. The government hopes to transform the agricultural sector into a commercial business venture. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to providing top-notch education with a strict zero-tolerance policy for infractions in the sector. According to Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Olatunji Lausa, the government is resolute in its quest for quality education, ensuring that all Nigerians have access to excellent learning opportunities. This stance is reinforced by the government's recent actions, such as revoking contracts for smart schools in the country due to infractions. The Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Saeed Ahmed, emphasized the importance of technology-enhanced learning, highlighting the government's initiatives to establish smart schools across the country.
Deliberate on them and at the same time work together to proper solutions.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly with Claire and Erie after the break.
To all our viewers, we say thank you. A good TV station means different things to different people. What made NTA stand out for you in 2024?
Babu shakka babu wani gidan talabijin a ƙasar nan da ke nuna al'adu kamar yadda gidan talabijin na ƙasa wato NTA kinna.
Kò sí ibikíbi tí ẹ wà ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà tí ẹ ò ti lè wo ilé-iṣẹ́ tẹlifíṣàn ìjọba àpapọ̀ NTA kétékété kódà tó fi di abúlé wa.
Standard NTA Bàtàrúrò Ọkọ̀ọ̀pá Ọ̀kàdìgún ọ̀kọ̀kọ̀ now NTA Kàlẹ́sì àkàlẹ̀.
Trends, information, outstanding performance. NTA got the steves.
For decades, we've towered high with sponsors as partners and viewers as pillars. And as we beat 2024 farewell, we welcome you to a superlative 2025. Because at NTA, you can't beat the reach.
Oh, NTA say thank you.
Hey, Nigeria. Ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for the environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and MDPRA.
Why do we have to arrange all the goodies into a tower? We should all take what we want, as we want, and when we want.
From Pets, it's important to secure the goodies and protect them for everyone. We want to make sure there's enough for everyone, even on a rainy day.
I don't see the point.
Oh no! Our tower! No! From Pets!
Oh, sorry.
This is a perfect example of how one poor choice can bring down something so great.
And our one small good action can make a big difference.
Remember, everyone, let's focus on making the right choices and doing small acts of goodness. Together, we can build something even more magnificent for everyone and ensure that it lasts.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youth, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country. God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
Rayo Vallecano. Celta Vigo. Watch live Rayo Vallecano versus Celta Vigo live on Sporty TV. Sporty Bet, sponsors of the Spanish La Liga.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Up next is newspaper review.
All right, welcome back to the program, and right on time if you just tuned in to catch headlines on the newspaper review with Chukwudi Okoli Ubuaja. Chukwudi, good morning.
Hello.
And good to have you again this last
morning.
Friday.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Chukwudi. Good morning.
Morning. You're piloting today. I see your paper.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're here.
And I'm just noticing your gele.
You're just noticing it.
Yeah.
The two of you kicked off this presentation.
No.
Claire,
I didn't.
can we go to...
Thank you, Chukwudi. Let's begin with the People's Daily, because I don't know what to be the topic this morning. The papers the People's Daily will lead us. And the lead story here says, Tinubu demands increase in currency swap between China and Nigeria. Condemns terrorist attack on army base in Borno. Away from that, 2025 budget, defense ministers, MDAs under fire in Senate. Next to that, money laundering. I don't have power to convert funds to Naira. El Rufai's ex-aide tells court. You want to find out all the details, the People's Daily would guide you. Below the picture story, we have federal government says telecom tariff hike coming. Okay. Federal government says telecom tariff hike coming. All right, we need to get prepared for that one. Below that, Nigerian Army formalizes collaboration with firms on food security. National Quranic competition, Gombe governor gives cash gifts to excellent indigents. All right, so Boko Haram Zulum donates 300 million naira to slain soldiers' families. And finally, from the front page of the People's Daily, Nasarawa is the kicker. Governor Sule downplays opposition's likely merger ahead of 2027 elections. All right, that's it from the People's Daily. Let's see the Nigerian pilot quickly now. Nigerian pilot leads with expatriates tax regime. Court summons Tunji Ojo. The Riders Interior Minister Ojo, AGF Fagbemi summoned over proposed expatriates tax regime. They are to explain why implementation of expatriates taxation regime should not be stopped. That current prevailing tax regime is friendlier towards expatriates than proposed one. And of course, so many other riders to that particular story. You want to see all the details. Away from that, HMPV is on the news. No serious threat for now. NCDC assures Nigerians no serious threat for now. NCDC assures Nigerians that on HMPV. Bandit leader Dogo is killed in clash with repentant comrades. That's on page 4. Away from that, we have a picture here of Governor Diri signing condolence register at the home of late Women Affairs Commissioner. Diri Cabinet PDP chieftains visit late commissioner's family and other accident victims. A very sad report. And just to look at some of the stories at the bottom of the front page of the Nigerian Pilot this morning, we have 18 local government chairmen squandered 83 billion naira allocations in 12 months. That's coming from Edo State. And the governor, Kwevolo, is talking. Nnamdi Kanu's trial will remain in limbo until assigned to a new judge. That's according to a lawyer. You want to see that. 285 victims rescued, 22 human traffickers arrested in Kano, according to NAPTIP. Finally, Catholic Pontiff Pope Francis urges dialogue war. That's on page 4.
Okay, so let's start it up on New Telegraph. New Telegraph, I beg your pardon, leads with Tinubu 6, China support for Nigeria's Permanent Security Council bid. It's on page 2. Comes with riders, and there are other stories trending just below the nameplate there. Of course, from budget presentation in Lagos to Haneze, and of course to U.S. Embassy, consulate in Nigeria shut down permanently. Biden praises Carter's character as ex-president casket heads to Georgia. And just a little below the picture story, 2025 appropriation bill, Senate grills ministers, heads of agencies, and there's a rider here. Wale Edun begs for closed-door session on fuel subsidy proceeds as upper chamber orders NOA non-DJs to represent their proposals. And we also have other stories on the front page here. Minimum wage will be reviewed in less than 2 years, says Minister. This story is on page 7. And childhood maltreatment might alter sperm, impact future generations' brain development. And that is according to the study that is posted on page 27. Chukwudi, let's quickly start with you. Of course, there are other stories, okay? Let me quickly take this one. Funds repatriation, CBN moves to bear extension for export proceeds. Okay, take it up, Chukwudi.
Yeah, some papers seem to be late about reporting certain things because this bet actually came yesterday. FG says telecoms tariff coming. Yeah. And it reminds me that an official of the NCC actually was saying no. People should stop spreading rumors. It's a procedure, even if it's going to happen, which I think is true anyway. But they say there's no smoke without fire. As it was debunking, I hate that word. As it was disowning that particular report, it does seem that there were plans to eventually do it, and government has now come out openly. The point is this: can we afford whatever? They say that the federal government has the interest of the consumer, the person who consumes data, makes calls, and as well as that of the telcos, you know, very much in mind when it does what it does. So it's an equity kind of arrangement, fairness to all parties. Whatever happens, affordability is going to matter a lot because restriction to data underdevelops a people to some extent. You have to organize all that into your thinking process to make a good decision. Expatriates tax regime caught summons Ojo and others. I don't know why the minister has been summoned. I think the court is questioning whether expatriates tax should be touched at this point and all that. Well, if it's not unconstitutional to do it, if it's a doable thing, then the reason has to be other things. Let's not speculate. Yep. Bandit leader Isa killed in quarrel with repentance. I want to hear things like this. That God or Allah is sowing seeds of discord in their midst, and they're turning their swords against one another. You know, it's biblical. I'm sure that the Quran would actually have something like that too. When you are plotting against people, God could actually bring confusion into your ranks. Then here, Tinubu is seeking China's support for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Well, fine. I don't know how many slots Africa would be promised at the end of the day. Whatever happens, when that, if it's just going to be one seat, you're going to see something that looks like a rivalry. Yeah, I mean, South Africa is going to be the first.
I thought that should have even been the question. How many African nations will be fine? But again, that is why you need to, you know, seek support, dialogue with other nations, and seek collaboration and all of that. And we've been at this for quite a long time. But I also wanted to talk about a little bit about the demand for increase in 2 billion naira currency swap deal with China?
First of all, we have to understand what the currency swap is all about. And because I'm not an economist, I Googled it up. A currency swap is a financial agreement where two parties exchange currencies and interest payments at a predetermined rate. It's a type of foreign exchange transaction that can help companies and governments manage currency and interest rate risk. What this means is that you don't leave your currency dancing to the vagaries of the free market and all that. You know, it's like determining what your currency exchange rate is, what your exchange rate should be. There are some countries that deliberately tamper with the exchange rate. They tell you this is our exchange rate, and it's working for them. I don't know why economists have, two systems in place. You could leave yours floated, like we did the other day, but you could also fix yours. What are the economic implications of all that? Remember that the trade volume between China and Nigeria, unfortunately, the surplus is on China's side. It's growing more and more. So many things are likely to come into place concerning dealings between these two great economic powers.
I think just, I don't know if I'm also right, but simply put, it's it entails transacting businesses based on the partnering countries' currencies, rather than having to re-exchange in dollars and then purchasing in dollars. So I think both Nigeria and China, whatever we purchase from China,
you're saying that
will
there
be paid
will be
in Chinese currency. No dollar intrusion.
Fine, that's it.
Yes.
That's why they say it's a currency exchange. Parties exchange currencies and interest payments is going to be in their own currencies, of course. And that, I think, removes a hurdle the dollar brings into transactions across the world sometimes. But remember that Donald Trump, he has not assumed office yet, 20th January. 20th January is the date, but he's already saying that those who are trying to form BRICS and then counter the dollar, tariffs will be, slammed on them and all that.
I think another a good thing
it seems to be threatening the entire world.
Yes, is it will help us curb the interest, rate that could amount, from whatever transaction we make.
Oh,
if
yeah,
we had,
sure.
Yes, if that had been done in dollars,
yes.
You can imagine, the interest rate. I mean, the loan payment and all of that,
yes.
what it will attract. But once transactions are done based on the exchange of currency, it reduces, I mean, it helps your economy, helps your pocket as well. So the president is asking for an upward review of, in the $2 billion, dollar currency swap.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know to what, is the president asking for, but that would be good.
Quickly, the president, the United States president that was like a dove, is getting a private burial. Eventually, Jimmy Carter is going home. I loved him. I liked Rosalind, the wife who died.
Didn't say anything, but just before we go, I know the director is saying there's something that came up this morning. There's something that came up this morning that might interest you as well. I saw it on the international. Scientists are trying to engineer a genetically modified mosquito, male mosquito, and they intend to inject a toxic sperm into the male mosquito and then release it into the atmosphere to mate with the female Anopheles mosquito.
Yeah.
And how this is different from what has been paraded before is that these toxic male mosquitoes, when they mate with the female mosquitoes, will eventually kill the female mosquitoes and prevent them from breeding. That checks, and they said it's going to check malaria by 60%.
No problem. I believe in AI achievements. It's just that the machines can turn against humanity one day. I believe in science, but I'm not going to be submitted in the lab for these things too.
No, you
know, there's something of the Bushman in me.
It's mosquitoes. It's mosquitoes, not humans.
Okay,
so,
fine.
I think the test case will be mosquitoes, not humans.
Not humans, yeah.
Eventually.
It's just that I'm not comfortable that it's the male mosquitoes that are killing the female ones. We'll take a break. When we come back, we get into the conversation. Stay with us.
Mosquito activism.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, the land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, we turn dark into light, we bet solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
It's time to honor the bravery and sacrifice of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Join us at the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Grand Patron of the Nigerian Legion, invites you to a series of events as we mark the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration. In preparation for the main event, a special Juma prayer will take place at the National Mosque on Friday, January 10, 2025 at 1 p.m., while an interdenominational church service will be held at the National Christian Center, Abuja, on Sunday, January 12, 2025 at 2 p.m. The main event, wreath-laying ceremony, will take place on Wednesday, January 15, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. at the National Arcade, Abuja. Let us come together to celebrate our compatriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Some bled, some were maimed, others paid the supreme price to serve our sovereign motherland. Armed Forces Remembrance Day 2025, appreciating the Nigerian Armed Forces.
This Saturday, Borussia Mönchengladbach FC Bayern München. Watch live Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Bayern München on Sporty TV.
Sporty Bet sponsors coverage of the German Bundesliga.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible, and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives. This Sunday, Venezia.
Oristagno into Zampano!
Inter Milan.
Marcus Thuram, this will kill it off!
Venezia versus Inter Milan. Live on Sporty TV.
Sporty Bet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation this morning, which is on the human metapneumovirus, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidou.
As Nigeria wakes up to the news of a new COVID-like virus, HMPV, spreading rapidly across Asia, concerns are growing about the potential threat to the country's health security. But what exactly is HMPV? Human metapneumovirus, or HMPV, is a viral infection that affects the respiratory system. First identified in 2001 by Dr. Johan van den Hoogen and colleagues in the Netherlands, HMPV has been reported globally, with outbreaks occurring primarily during the winter months. HMPV spreads through close contact with an infected person, contact with contaminated surfaces, and respiratory droplets. Symptoms can range from mild to severe respiratory illness, including cough, sore throat, runny nose, and fever. Certain groups are at higher risk for severe HMPV infection, including young children, older adults, and people with underlying health conditions. The World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are closely monitoring the situation. While there is no specific vaccine or treatment for HMPV, supportive care such as oxygen therapy and antiviral medications can help alleviate symptoms. So, what does this mean for Nigeria? As we prepare to respond to the potential threat of HMPV, health experts and virologists advise it is essential to strengthen our surveillance systems, enhance our testing capacity, and improve our contact tracing mechanisms. By understanding the virus, its transmission, and its severity, we can work together to protect our citizens and prevent the spread of HMPV. Join us as experts on the program delve into the implications of HMPV and share critical insights on how to protect ourselves and our communities. Stay tuned for this vital conversation, because every breath matters.
Ibrahim Dan Hamidou, thank you. Now, the disease of the virus is called human metapneumovirus. But to save us the whole trouble of it, we'll just call it for short HMPV. HMPV. We already have our guest seated here. The DG NCDC is here with us, and we'd like to welcome him robustly for the first time to our studio, Dr. Jide Idris. We're very glad to have you, and thank you for skipping your early morning sleep to be with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much, sir. And we also have someone we haven't seen for a while, but of course, one of our pioneer guests on Good Morning Nigeria, Professor Abdul Salami Nasidi, pioneer DG NCDC. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And compliments of the season.
Compliment of the season to Nigerians, to you all.
All right, also joining us for the conversation is Dr. Ganiu Jamiu. He is the Chief Consultant Epidemiologist at the Federal Ministry of Health. He joins us via Zoom all the way from Lagos. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
All right. Nigerians are very concerned and very worried. And why? When we heard that another virus, has come out again from Wuhan in China, memories of COVID-19, flashed back. But we are told it's not a new virus. It's been there all the while. But it's still making headlines, social media. And this is the first question I'd like to ask the DG. if this has been on, why the loud headlines? Why are nations concerned? Why are they up, trying to see what they can do?
I think it's just a reflection of our experience of COVID. Or able to go back again, Ebola. Like I did say, the setting, we've had very good experiences that actually made us as a country to sit up and start establishing public health infrastructures to help deal with emergencies. We had Ebola that caught us unawares. COVID came, also caught us unawares, but we learned lessons. After those episodes, he was in the front line there. The government of the day then did not decide to set up structures to prepare for things like this. We never prepared before. Now we prepare. Now we're building infrastructure. So with the experience of COVID, this is how COVID started. Nobody took it very seriously. We also understand that a lot of these viruses, influenza, COVID, they mutate. They change structures, they change functions, and eventually they change their effect. They may be mild now. You never know what will happen again in future. And that's why, because of the increasing numbers in China and other countries, the alert is that from global experiences, it's a call for us, different countries, to start preparing for this. We don't hope that it will get to that level, but we should not be caught unawares. That's the essence. Let's start preparing, just in case these things happen.
All right, Dr. Idris, you said that Nigeria is building infrastructure, after the experience of Ebola and COVID. Let us know some of the infrastructure.
I said public health infrastructures.
So I would like to know some of the infrastructure that's been put in place.
They cover so many things. One of them has to do, a key one, is leadership and governance, number one. In an emergency, you need structures. Even in government, any institutions, you need structures, without which you have chaos. So for emergencies like this, there are specific things you need to look at. What you have, the legal issues, the policies available, the protocols, the systems. These are things that are available here. Regulations, whatever. You look at that. These are things that guide us into taking decisions, explaining to people, and under a command system. Without that, there's chaos. That is one. That one came from the military culture. When you're going to battle, there's a command structure. Somebody takes charge. Everybody knows you have roles and responsibilities. You take care of what. In this kind of setting now, you have laboratory settings, surveillance people, awareness creation, communications, etc. If there is no structure, there's chaos. That's number one. Number two, you build, in medical language, you build hospitals, right? You build clinics, you build treatment centers. Remember during COVID, isolation centers, treatment centers, we never thought of before. It's when this happened, we were constructing while people were dying. Now, this is a lesson for us. So we start building structures. So we had treatment centers, isolation centers, laboratory networks, not only nationally, subnationally. That's one. Three, how do you track these diseases? Use data. This data come from different sources. Health facilities, the community, laboratory systems, and these are data you track and record. And once you see a difference in trend, maybe a rising trend, it's a trigger for something is happening. Even currently now we use things like what you call EBS. You can always scan through newspapers, social media, different stories that shows you that something unusual is happening. We collect all those ones and analyze. You can see a trend. These are triggers for you. You say, something is happening. No, there's so many things like that. Awareness creation, communications. In the health sector, we are so used to patient-doctor relationship. When it comes to enlightening the public, it's a totally different ballgame. So you need communication experts, media experts, who know how to craft messages. They work hand in hand with medical people. Not like say, wash your hand, clean your mouth. Exactly. No, it's much more than that. Exactly. And again, in this country, we have different ethnic groups, different cultures, different traditions. How we say this in Lagos may be totally different from how it's said in Zamfara. So all these things have to be culturally sensitive, they're to be crafted. These are infrastructure for public health situation emergencies that are necessary to be put in place. You need information technology. Nowadays, before you use microscope, go and track this. Now you need genomic sequencing. These are things we are beginning to build as a country to help us fast track our response.
Dr. Idris, thank you. We will even come back to take each of the items you have talked about that constitute the preparatory, schedule for us. But I like to bring in Professor Nasidi here. The disease, it's not just now in China and many other cities in China. There are cases reported in Malaysia. There are cases reported in India. In fact, the Indian health minister is reported to have said people should not worry about HMPV because it is not a new virus. And they had, incident even in December last year. Now, World Health is also reporting that, in the Northern Hemisphere in recent weeks, it's expected at this time of the year, and that this is not unusual. And everybody is telling us that it's since 2001, even in Netherlands, it was there. So my question to you will be, how well do we know the pathogens, that are causing this disease?
Well, thank you. First and foremost, just like the DG has said, that the best way for defense is to prepare for war. So the country is definitely preparing for war, and we needed the mechanisms to do that. Why? Because the enemy that we're dealing with are usually invisible. They are not the type of, cross-border enemies, Boko Haram, all these international terrorists, etc. These are biological terrorists, as you can call them that way. And so, as he said also, they come quietly. They take you by surprise. Like if you remember the COVID, particularly the COVID history, there were states of denial by many countries where disease was occurring, especially China. There were cover-ups. They were saying, oh, this is not serious. This is just a common flu. It will come and pass, and so on and so forth. But these pathogens, the viruses, some of them bacteria are, reassorting constantly. They are changing. And they get adapted to human cells. A lot of them actually came from animals, and when there's what we call host species jump from animals to human, those pathogens become very deleterious, very dangerous. They can do things that you don't expect. So now, but the worries, why is it that these pathogens are behaving the way they are behaving? They cover up. They come the same time when other pathogens are causing diseases. Like the case we are now, the common flu, the RSVP, virus is there, also causing flu all around. And the other viruses they are picking that are causing what they call influenza-like illnesses, so like flu. Then this one is coming quietly underground, and if you don't monitor it and take serious care, it can take you by surprise. So we are dealing with continuous, evolving, reassorting, mutating pathogens, viruses that are there. They are like giving us guerrilla warfare. They lie low, they come under the guise of other diseases, and then they pick up and they can shock us. This is why we shouldn't listen to those who are saying this is just a common virus, it's not causing. Yeah, we shouldn't worry so much. We should worry rather, but we shouldn't panic. But at the same time, we should know that if we don't do what we are supposed to do, as listed by the DG, we might be taken by surprise. And as he said, right from the top, when these things become so serious, they take us by surprise and go beyond just the health sector. They affect our trade, our economy, our everything. And, this is why if you see China, just like at the beginning of COVID, is also handling this current outbreak with care. They are saying, yeah, they have an outbreak, but the outbreak is not yet overwhelming their health system. And what do they mean by that? They are not seeing too many patients to overwhelm the hospitals yet. They are not seeing many people dying, with case fatality rate increasing like we had in other outbreaks. And at the same time, they are not, having, too much pressure on their health system. But as the time goes now, they are seeing that it's not abating, it's not reducing. So even though it has not increased much, but it's still there. So this is why, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to stay with you, Prof. I know that our correspondent Ibrahim tried to mention some of the symptoms, but I'd like to hear them from you too. You know how this manifests in humans, and those who are more at risk, whether children, men or women. But you made a statement in your response to the earlier question. You said they come quietly, but there's this conspiracy theory that some of these viruses do not come on their own; that they are manufactured. Is there any truth in that?
Well, it is the push by the conspiracy theorists, which shouldn't be ignored. We can't ignore it because we have all sorts of good, bad, and ugly human beings all over the world, and some people can decide to, use it for any bad intention. So the possibility of man-made or man-manipulated viruses to be around us is very high, especially for countries with large populations like China, India, Nigeria, Indonesia. We should, be very careful and be on the defensive and the attack, rather, to make sure that we are not taken by surprise, because, there are many people who are planning to reduce our population. And they can reduce your population through, reproductive health system. And if it doesn't work, some of them can go, only God knows what to. So it should be our top priority, health security. And I'm happy that the NCDC is on top of that. We have sophisticated laboratories now that are monitoring any virus that causes any untoward disease we don't know, that is behaving funny. The NCDC has capacity now to be able to detect the virus, analyze the virus, break it into all the genetic components, and tell us whether we are dealing with a new virus, man-manipulated virus, or man-made virus, and so on and so forth. So we shouldn't ignore it. It's very possible, very, very possible indeed.
Okay, let's take our conversation to Lagos. Dr. Jamiu, still on the epidemiology of this, HMPV. I mean, they say it's usual during winters. We don't have winter here. What we have is Harmattan. Are we likely to have similar wave?
Well, I wouldn't want to say we are going to have similar wave. As just like my senior colleagues have said, we are just trying not to take chances. What we are currently doing is part of epidemic preparedness and response. We don't need to wait until we record any outbreak before we take steps. So based on evidence, this virus is everywhere globally, and it is common among children, and it belongs to a group of virus that causes both upper and lower respiratory infections among children. And other group are the respiratory syncytial virus, the mumps, and the measles. So the measles virus. So it is not new, but our concern is the fact that when it was mentioned that there were a kind of recorded cases in China and so on, we think we decided actually we take a caution just to make sure that we don't have such kind of picture in Nigeria. That's why I think it's very important we take that step. But I don't think we should be expecting such based on the level of preparedness. And already there has been NCDC, with due respect, there have been already risk assessment on that issue, and it has been placed at moderate risk. But what we are just trying to do is to make sure that we can continue to monitor the event as it's ongoing, so that we take necessary steps to ensure that we don't record that. But based on the fact that this virus has been there for a long time, which is common among children, as I've mentioned, it's just that occasionally we see it among the elderly, those that are greater than 65 years of age, and those that have some underlying respiratory conditions like chronic pulmonary diseases, those that have congestive heart failure, and those that have immunosuppressive conditions like HIV, those that have autoimmune diseases, and so on. So these are why it's good to take caution, but I think don't expect that we'll get to that level in terms based on the fact that it has been categorized as moderate risk, and the fact that it is not new, and the fact that I think we are prepared to handle any kind of emergencies that may unfold any moment from now.
Okay, Dr. Jamiu, of course, we are prepared. I intend to ask more questions on that preparedness, really, to fight this virus. But please speak about what you already mentioned, that it's common amongst children. Why is that? And when you say children, does it include newborns? I mean, is there a category, really? And then you talked about the elderly and those who already have underlying ailments. Is it the same case for children? Or, you know, I just want to understand, you know, why it's more around this bracket you have mentioned.
Okay, actually, it's commoner among children. You know, children less than 5 years old, but more or less among premature children, and the peak period of infection of that of the disease is between 6 to 12 months. Those are people that have, that's the peak period, the category of children that is more affected. And it has also been, based on evidence, it has also been reported that about 10 to 12% of respiratory illness in children is attributed to this virus. So it is not new. And usually, majority of cases are mild. It's only occasionally that we have severe cases based on the risks I've already highlighted. So it is not really something new. It's just that we need to be more proactive and prepared in case there's any upsurge in that. And also, one thing I also want to say is that most children recover from it, especially those that have milder cases. It's only occasionally that, as I've said, a very less than about barely less than 16% or so may end up developing a severe condition, and that is what I mean by the severity is those that end up having a pneumonia, that is lower respiratory tract infection. If not, it is something that why we are not actually concerned about is that it is something that go on its own. It has a incubation period about 3 to 6 days, and it's expected that within 3 to 5 days, an individual should be able to recover from it. It's only on very rare cases when some people may have a prolonged illness and they will require actually a form of intervention, which usually happen to be supportive kind of management, as highlighted earlier, like oxygen therapy, IV fluid, treat symptomatically, and if there are any a kind of secondary bacterial infection, that's when such a kind of individual would benefit from antibiotics. Thank you.
Dr. Jamil, thank you. Back to the DG. The NCDC has come out to classify our status as moderately at risk. And I would like you to speak further, because if this good circulation of respiratory pathogens come together, you know, now I mean, it raises much concern, especially where we have, you know, high indicators of people with compromised immunity. If you look at all our health indicators, even from those with malaria, you know, diabetes and all that, you know, all our indicators are on the high side. So I'm just wondering, with all of this, you know, we are still at moderate risk. Why is that so?
Well, like we do for most outbreaks, depending on the virus, once news like this happen, people start getting word. We do a dynamic risk assessment. What we do is that for each disease, we have a technical working group comprising of subject matter experts, people from universities, researchers, our partners, even within NCDC, etc. They all look together and debate or check all the availability on that disease using specific criteria. One of these they use is, okay, suppose this happens, what do you have installed that is in our favor? What makes us vulnerable? They put all this together before they categorize and they are scored. For this one, they score moderate. And somebody said, look, what we have in terms of readiness, with our past experience, the number of things that are already on the ground that we may need if it happens. So that's a positive for us. What do you have against? A few ones, huge population, like Riley said. The same stuff we're using for other diseases, the same stuff we have to use again for other. So there is a bit of the staff may be overwhelmed. Those things. So, assessing those things, and that's why they categorize as moderate. Moderate is that you're moving now to an alert mode. That's what it means. What is alert mode now? Get prepared. Whatever you have on the positive side, activate them or reactivate them. Whatever you have on the negative side, fill the gaps. Or do something in right now so that you will not be caught unaware. So those are things. And we have the specific pillars when these emergencies happen, like I did tell you, pillars. When it happens, who takes charge? So for any disease, once it gets to that level, we activate what we call the Emergency Operations Center. Activated, in which case now, this is an emergency, everybody comes together from different pillars, from different states, everything like that. We now debate. You give us your experience in that state, you give us your experience in the labs, you give us experience. So they look at that, and based on that, every day we now start planning. What have we done? What haven't we done? Those are the things that are ongoing. For HMPV, ordinarily we never used to track this. But luckily, we are still tracking COVID. We're still tracking flu-like illnesses. We're still tracking respiratory infections. So what we've said is that we add this to that. Now, because we've not been used to track before, what can we do to ensure that? The only thing left now is that the primer that they use, well, more like some reagents for diagnosis. We don't have that. Now we're getting that and distributing. Are you with me? Luckily, too, there are research facilities that are manufacturing this. Either we bring them in or get them out. So we put that in process. And now, for those of them who are now, we need to retrain. There is the various laboratories available now to start retraining. So that's part of the preparedness. Now, I have sentinel sites, like you rightly said, in different healthcare facilities, about 18 now. They are the ones who monitor and track a lot of respiratory diseases. We've activated them. We are supporting them so that now they will actively now start tracking for this HPMV. That's that. Our laboratories, NRL in Abuja here, and CPHL in Lagos, are the national labs. They have the wherewithal. We also have zonal labs where they have the capacity as established during COVID. All they need to do now, optimize that to be able to test for diseases. Those are part of our preparedness activities. We're getting people there, getting across, notifying the states. Because ideally, a lot of this is happening in the states, not in Nigeria.
Precisely. Sorry, sir. So before I it skips my mind. Is that the same reagent that is used for testing COVID that will be used for this?
It's slightly different. It's slightly different. That's why each disease, they all have their genetic compositions. And to identify that, you have to be specific on what you use to that. This is where collaboration with research institutions or manufacturing institutions comes in. There are people who have specific capabilities to do that. We need to work with that.
So where do we get it? Are we still going to depend on South Africa? Because in the past, you know...
Just yesterday, I spoke to the DG of NIMA. They prepare primers there. Because they developed these capabilities during COVID. And they are developing capabilities again. So we need to look inwards. And one of the lessons is that, look, we will be totally dependent on the external basis. It's about time now we started building those capabilities, and that's what we are doing. Based on our experience in COVID, NIMA started it. They are preparing primary reagents now for mpox or some of the diseases.
Okay. Dr. Idris, you have spoken, to how prepared Nigeria is. You've spoken so much about it. But you keep talking about measures to diagnose and, to trace this virus. You have not spoken about how we would treat it, if it surfaces here. You have not talked about, anything about drugs, vaccines. I mean, way to handle it if it eventually gets here. I want to hear about that.
You mentioned, she said we're going to come back to it. Public health infrastructures. I just said. So this was when you say medical countermeasures. These are things like drugs, vaccines, reagents, consumables that you may likely need depending on the virus or research. Now, you don't wait until this happens before you start buying. We already stopped buying. Are you? Some drugs, luckily, I would say luckily.
So we're not looking inwards in that regard?
Of course we are. Unfortunately, drugs locally. Unfortunately, we don't manufacture antiviral drugs. Again, like say for this kind of thing, you treat symptomatically. Analgesia, hydration, oxygen, right? Those things are very rare. You know, the Federal Ministry has set up oxygen centers, different across the countries. They can have access to oxygen in case you need oxygen. All these treatments again are being done in health facilities, not under the direct purview of NCDC. But again, we all work together. So under that infrastructure, there is of course case management. For a particular case, when you have it, how do you manage it? There are protocols that will now send to the various institutions, send to various health workers. If you see a case like this, XYZ, these are the things, protocols to follow. Those protocols are really, it's all under governance. We send those protocols out to the various institutions to alert them to be on the lookout for diseases like this, so that when you see those cases, you follow the protocol to treat. In those institutions, you have experts, consultants, just in case they have complications, you can take that over. Take, for instance, for Lassa fever. What kills in Lassa fever? Kidney failure. Now, you can do everything you can, like you can talk to people, but when those cases happen, they have to be treated in hospitals. We don't control the hospitals, but we go hand in hand with those hospitals. But as part of our support, we supplied a number of those hospitals with dialysis machines, just in case they have cases who have renal shutdown. They have those facilities to get them out of the situation. So those are medical countermeasures. Vaccines, we stock vaccines just in case, depending on what kind of disease we are dealing with.
So we should rest assured that we're in safe hands.
We're in safe hands, but again, I won't lie to you, we still need to beef up again. We continue to develop. Because you don't know what kind of virus are going to come later.
Exactly. So let's
you understand me?
Yes. Professor Nasidi, I mean, again, we've been reassured that this is not as, dangerous as COVID-19 or Ebola, but it also attacks the immune system. And we know when your immune system is compromised, we know how devastating that can be. For COVID-19, there were people who got the jabs. There were those who didn't get the required, who didn't go the rounds. Now, if is taking the jab, COVID-19 jab, sufficient, or does it even address it? Does it give you any form of protection?
Well, it's a good question, and it doesn't, because the viruses are biologically distinct. They are not the same types. So there's no cross protection between COVID vaccine, with the HMPV. So that's one. Then secondly, as they say, it's an old virus, but it's standalone to some extent. It's not related to some of the other, viruses that are causing, influenza or influenza-like diseases. So even the seasonal vaccination, vaccination against the seasonal flu might not protect you from HMPV. So there's no, specific vaccine yet. But so what is so important is the health education, protecting, empowering the communities to protect themselves.
Yet you said we should not be worried.
Yes. No. Yeah.
I mean.
No. Yeah. We should not be worried that it could cause a pandemic like COVID, but we should be worried that it can actually come in and destabilize the system, and even though it doesn't kill as many as COVID does, but it can increase our disease burden and create pressure on our health system. We shall get overwhelmed visits by patients to our hospitals that are already weak. They're already overpressured. So then we can also have confusion caused by the virus in people that are already immune compromised, like the HIV/AIDS. This is unfortunately, even though we have less than 1.5 million people with HIV now undergoing treatment and so on and so forth, or positive, it's a huge number. So if the virus comes and then it gives a co-infection with people with HIV, they're already immune compromised to some extent, so death rate will be higher among them. But another thing that we are worried about is that in areas where it has affected, affected in China, some of the pathogenic processes that the virus is showing is that it might be also killing or devastating the same type of age groups, that especially more of the young ones, as has been mentioned by the Minister of Health, children below 5, and then you know that the burden of malaria is higher among that group.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
So if it comes and any child has a malaria just like that, and this virus comes, it can be devastating. Then also, the elderly people, we know what COVID did. I have a friend who has a clinic in Kano, and during the COVID, he showed me his case note. I was shocked. He lost 72% or 73% of his patients older than 72 years. So we hope this one doesn't have that type of capability. It's not that we are causing, we are panicking or all this, but we need to be prepared, as the DG said, with all these weapons.
Still talking about preparedness, I asked you earlier about the symptoms, how HMPV presents, because it's a respiratory infection. Is it similar to other respiratory infections, just so that it is easily detected, it's not confused to be, say something else? And treatment, of course, when there's a delay in treatment, it could lead to further complications. Let us know. Is it easily diagnosed? Is it clear to know this is HMPV?
It's not easy clinically. It's not possible to distinguish it from others, clinically, because it gives the same symptoms. But like the common flu. The common flu is usually affecting mostly the upper respiratory tract. So the symptoms will be, sneezing, coughing, and irritation of the throat, irritation of the running nose, and this. So these are and fever, of course. So it's not quite severe, but it can be very worrying and disturbing, the patient. Especially those who live in the temperate areas. But this virus also has the capability to affect the lower respiratory tract. So it can lead to pneumonia, difficulty in breathing, and that will require intensive care and so on and so forth. So with this property, the virus is mild. It's not as severe as the COVID. But we fear now is that we hope it wouldn't also change to become as severe as the COVID virus. So that's why all the other countries, what the WHO is saying, is now an outbreak. It's not yet giving any alarm, for concern, or signs for concern, but that we should be on our guards. Anything can happen. It can surprise us, and I'm happy that the DG NCDC has mentioned that to some extent, and we are very ready. But I believe that the government should empower, the health system with extra, budgetary support, because we didn't plan for HMPV before. We are planning for COVID resurgence. We are planning for other diseases that are already affecting us, Lassa fever, etc. Then this is a new without additional financial and material support, we might be taken by surprise.
Are you saying the budget for this year is not going to be sufficient? We have 4.84. That's
yeah, but the budget did not take into consideration this possibility that this new emergence will come. Imagine and reimagine will come. So if you don't, address it seriously, for instance, there are no specific drugs against HMPV, but there are drugs that you can use to mitigate the impact of the disease on human body. Okay, so if in the budget, the Ministry of Health will submit, NCDC will submit, all the health facilities will submit, they will be based on, the ones that we already know, the one we're battling with. And maybe put some 10% contingency that this could happen. But if this one becomes very serious, it can devastate and destabilize the health system. And that's what we don't want to be sitting and allow it to happen. When it happens, before you know where you are, it goes beyond health system. It even affects the economic system. It affects everything. But we know for now there's no need that there will be travel restrictions. There's no evidence for that yet. There's no need that there will be this sit-at-home, social distancing in such a severe distance, and then wearing masks and outdoor. All these are not yet. We are not yet there. But countries where this is happening, like China and India and all this, they are now taking measures that the possibility of imposing this within limited communities where the virus is already spread.
Shouldn't we be having testing for people coming from such regions into Nigeria at this time?
Yes, I'm sure the meetings,
the
meetings they had.
Yes.
Shouldn't we be having testing? Is testing going on for people coming from countries that already have it?
Like I said, some of the decisions we take again also depend on diplomatic relationship, global trade and all. And whatever decisions you take, for as long as you know that you're protecting lives of people again, that's paramount. But again, if it hasn't gotten to that level, the chance that it's going to disrupt all this. Take for instance what happened with the Chinese people 2 days ago. There was nothing that says, oh, we started quarantining people. It wasn't true. But they were worried. They needed to do that and show. Like you rightly said, once the WHO has not declared an emergency situation, basically public health of international concern, what you say is that you start preparing. But once you get to a particular level, all the testing is everywhere. What they are doing at the port health now, just getting all those systems ready if you need to test. You understand me? There are protocols they have to establish to go through. And when they go through the protocols, they have to talk with the various airlines. They tell them very quickly when we start or when they decide to happen. If tomorrow we see a surge, you can activate that. So, and they need to work with NCA to be able to work out this at the airport, so else there'll be chaos. You understand me? So, we have not started testing. Even when you go to start testing, you start with basic temperature tests. Because like Riley said again, the symptoms are the cold, runny nose, cough, etc. You know, it's when now you have that increase in number, you expect people a large number of cases now, then you put up these things. What they're doing now is just setting up those facilities, getting them ready, just in case you need to start testing. Now, to address one more thing, I mentioned public health infrastructure. Just one of the things again you need to do again is that even if you are not testing, we need to start increase awareness of the people. And that awareness is what we are doing now for most diseases. There are 4 key things. This is respiratory infections. How does it spread? If you know how a disease spreads, the easiest way is to stop that chain of spread is a very fit. So one of the things I talk about is hand washing. People, we did this during COVID. Wash your hands thoroughly whenever you do something like that. Ordinary hand washing culture reduces transmission of this by almost 40%. Now, if you are coughing, you have cold and cough, know how to call respiratory etiquette. You don't just cough openly, you cover your mouth, because this is spreads droplet infections. If you cough openly, there are droplets and people can listen. But if you cover, it can set you on this and that. So those are things again that reduce measures you use to reduce transmission. Now, when you cough or sneeze, it can land on surfaces like this. You clean all your surfaces, environmental cleaning. These are basic, simple things you can use for many infectious diseases that reduce transmission.
We see a lot of people now. We know this is our, dry season, Hamilton season, and of course the air in the atmosphere is quite dusty, and we now see a lot of people wearing, nose masks and all that. Now, if you see someone just mere coughing, do you have to be worried?
For as long as you don't cough and open your mouth and spread, you see, if you feel comfortable wearing, fine. Some people don't like it, but when it gets to a particular level that the disease burden is high, you make it mandatory, you put on face masks. But it has not reached that stage yet.
To that level, it's not yet the red flag. Let's bring in Dr. Jamiu, who's joining us from Lagos. Dr. Jamiu, I'm just wondering, is it coincidence that this is also emanating again from Wuhan? That was where, COVID started. And is there any explanation or origin data that China is sharing that it's not in tandem with the epidemiology that that we know of this HMPV?
Well, I would want to say, it could be a coincidence for the fact that we are recording that, but I think Professor Lasidi has tried to shed more light on the likely picture of what is actually happening. As I've said, this virus has been in place for a long time. The only thing that it, for instance, it flare up condition like people that have asthma, people that have chronic obstructive airway diseases. So it could be that maybe some of those people that are showing some symptoms and signs in China right now, maybe a kind of those that have recovered from COVID-19. And you know that one of the complications of COVID-19 that some end up having chronic obstructive airway disease. So with a kind of super infection with this virus, it may be maybe they are likely witness a kind of flare up of such infection. So it could be a possibility of why they are having that. One thing I still want to say is that this virus, usually majority of cases, it presents as a mild cases. It's only on very few occasions that people have severe form of that. And one thing I also wanted to, highlight on this is the fact that when an individual is exposed, he or she develops natural immunity, so that subsequently, when somebody have an infection, that person may be protected. So I want to make it very clear. So that's the beauty of this virus, that if somebody has first exposure, that person will likely build immunity for subsequent exposure. So what I'm trying to say in the nutshell is that an individual will have multiple exposure to this infection. So it's just like a common cold that we used to have. And I want to also make it clear again that individual there are other causes of cough. So because of an individual cough does not mean that you should be linking that to this particular virus. It could be as a result of other causes.
Yes, Dr. Jambia, I'm just curious. This is just out of curiosity. I'm a philosopher, so I mean, this is how we do our interrogation. These are philosophers, find knowledge out of curiosity. When you first heard, as an epidemiologist, that this is coming out of Wuhan again, what was your first reaction?
For everybody will say, why China again? Why is it China all the time? But it's happening. What we just need to do is to see how we can protect our country, ensure that whatever is coming from that place is not being, imported, and order not to cause the picture we had during COVID-19. As I've said, it has the implication go beyond the health system, the economy, and so on. Nobody pray for that. So actually, everybody is worried. I don't want to believe that it's only Nigeria. The whole world is worried, but I'm happy that the situation has not got to the level that WHO need to declare as a public health emergency of international concern. So we'll keep on praying and hoping that the whole situation will be put under control. And I think that's my own submission with this. But as a country, we keep on. I'm happy. With my senior colleague, Professor Nasidi and Dr. Jideji, we worked under Ebola. We were part of the team that actually responded to Ebola and even COVID-19. So I'm happy that this experience has actually helped us to be able to improve our epidemic preparedness and response system. A lot of infrastructure has been, invested in the system. So I'm hoping that whatever we are not praying, whatever will come in terms of public health threats, I think the country is well prepared to be able to handle that situation. Thank you.
Dr. Jami, we would get back to you in the course of the conversation, but let's get to Professor Nasidi now. I mean, we should be prepared. That's like the key word. Get people informed, do the needful and all. Dr. Idris tried to mention, some of the habits that could, take HMPV far from us. But talk to us about lifestyle and food.
About what?
Lifestyle.
Okay.
Is there, and food. Maybe anything we could start to eat now, or some habits in terms of our lifestyle and all that could help us stay safe away from HMPV.
Okay. Actually, from the health education point of view, health promotion, as the DG NCDC had mentioned, you don't jump into it without checking the cultural and background of the communities you want to to protect, and also you don't play around with information that are not coming from what the community will accept. So as far as lifestyle is concerned, it's so key, you know, in not just enhancing the transmission, but sustaining it. For instance, I will give you one of the few instances, you know, our way of behavior here. We have Hamatan, and we have, you know, very large part of the country, you know, under the Sahara. So you have the dust coming and the cold weather coming. So how many percent of our people now, I say, are impoverished? They can't afford even the blankets and also to cover themselves. So a lot of them, I just came back from Kano, from other places in the north, and very pathetic. So there is just that fact that, you know, people do not take this thing serious. They are just still, you know, taking it simplistically, but it can, you know, appear from where we are not expecting. In terms of what we eat, our behavior and all this, one is that we have to address how the disease is being transmitted. If it is transmitted through the droplet, through the coughing, and the DG has mentioned how to get yourself protected from that, you know, if you ignore the recommendations of the health sector and you go about the normal distance, you end up really being some of the first victims. I will give you an example. Nigerians, in many occasions, are good in cleaning their nose with their finger and all this, and that's the best, easiest way to actually transmit the virus. You shake hands or you touch the surface where the virus is already seen, and you have itching in your nose, it ends up with a real big problem for the person. And when it comes to issue of nutrition and what type of food and all this we eat, luckily some of our foods that we eat, especially we are endowed with fruits and a lot of vegetables. They are natural immune boosters.
Professor Naside, sorry to interject. I was going to even stop you because we're going to call for a break. Yeah. But if you take a look at there's a you know, clips that we are showing, and you know, people have different, you know, this virus is transmitted. You know, and now that we're talking about, you know, modes of spread. Maybe if we have it again, the DJ would quickly, you know, speak to that, you know, to, I mean, allay fears of what people believe now. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We'll just wait for it a moment. I think we actually got these clips, you know, from the net if you watch.
Yes.
Okay. The proximity, the closeness. Yes. So maybe you want to speak to that.
That's coughing.
Yes.
As I say, if you adopt that respiratory etiquette, you don't just cough openly, cover your mouth or cough or sneeze into your elbow, or if you need to use a mask. But more important, if you look at that again.
Yes. Please, can we have it again?
Vulnerable populations, for things like it, for influenza, respiratory problem, they spread faster in overcrowded areas.
Okay. Overcrowded.
Avoid overcrowded areas. If you are going to go there, let the ventilation be high enough. So things, I mean, you see.
And if you see in the background, I think that's a grocery store.
Exactly. You know, all those things now, some of those droplets can fall on surfaces here. That's why we say that try and clean all the surfaces. Don't just touch anything again. Cover your mouth. Wash your hands before you touch all this. These are things again, that measures again that is.
Okay, we'll come back to talk about content messaging or the messaging itself, because you've talked about it as you know, earlier on. Let's take a short break. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back in just a moment.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. we will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Tuesday night football. Atalanta.
Samajic, shaping up to shoot! This is Zappacosta!
Juventus.
Conceição and Timothy Weah applies the finish.
Atalanta versus Juventus. Live on Sporty TV.
Sporty Bet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
Welcome back to the program. So let's quickly talk about the content of the messaging, because Dr. Jude Idris, alluded to it, and has been doing so. And I think it's very important that we also, amend, the way we, create our awareness, especially of these things. Like you said, when we talk about washing of the hands, it's not just, you go to the running tap and then you do it like this. Please, how do you intend to approach this awareness campaign in terms of your messaging?
Well, there is a committee in place, and we're working with media consultants, media experts, because they understand. What we do is provide them with the information. Take, for instance, hand washing. You wash your hands for soap. The techniques for washing hands are things they will give to them. Running water.
So there's a technique for washing hands.
There's a technique for washing hands. You know, you have to. You don't just do like this and that kind of thing. You have to wash soap and water, running water. But again, in a country here where you don't have running water, you make do with the what's it called? If you remember during COVID,
sanitizers.
you can use hand sanitizers. But about that, it's not only telling them wash hands. You need to give them reasons why they need to wash hands. Because that's the only way now you can get them motivated, why you are telling them what to do and what not to do. That washing hands alone, after this, during this, before this, whatever it is, after using the bathroom, or when you're even coughing or sneezing, you clean problems again. If you wash your hands, it reduces the spread of infection. Not only HMPV, all sorts of infections, many, by almost 40%. That's what, give them reasons why. Now, I don't know whether it's the experts again that understand the cultural context of all this. That's why again, they need to come in again in terms of how to provide this messaging. And again, these messages again have to go in different languages, depending on which part of the country you are. That's one. Like we say, do this. You have to give them a reason why they should do it. It's not just say, do this, say health education, don't wash your mouth. Why must we do that? Then you are giving them reasons why. They understand knowledge that you are changing behavior. That's the only way to change behavior. And some people are used to shutting windows, closing up, maybe because of mosquitoes and all. That's why they say again that when you are building, that certain regulatory this you require. You don't, because of your environment, you put either mosquito wiring or something to prevent mosquitoes from entering. But what more important is that you need ventilation. Because when people cough, if this is properly dispersed, it does not concentrate in many people do that. If you say cough, cover your mouth, just like you showed there. If you don't cover your mouth, you spread it further. If you cover your mouth, you reduce the distance to which that thing goes to. And as soon as you finish, wash your hands. If they keep washing their hands again, you are doing two things at the same time.
But let me say something. When you say cough, I mean, this is just, I'm sorry. When you say cough, you do like this.
Yeah.
But you also know that the skin pores are also...
but again, those things again...
It gets back to your bloodstream.
The skin can take care of that.
Oh, the skin can take care of that.
Take care of that. Because now that, it's not that the virus will go through your skin. They can't penetrate like that unless you have an opening. You understand? But more important is that
you prevent transmission to other people. All right, many thanks, Dr. Idris. Professor Nasidi, I want you to speak to us about what we should be doing to prevent misinformation and disinformation. When it was Ebola, I remember I was bathed with salt and all that, was trending. And then Corona came, coronavirus, and I mean, all sorts, So, but speak to us this time around, what should the NCDC be doing? What should the media houses be doing? Just so that the right information is out there, like he has said, and we don't get to hear stories that could complicate people's health if they engage in it.
First and foremost is to work on, the people to accept that there is a problem. If I start with the HIV/AIDS pandemic, at the early days, people didn't believe in it, and they just thought it was a joke. They thought it was an invention by the American, this and so on and so forth. And if you don't communicate for people to accept the problem, in fact, all your other health education information will be for nothing. So if there are denials, among the community, in the government, that's why he was talking about the command system. The information, should flow right from top down. The head of the country should, make a statement if it's becoming a problem. So people will know that, yes, there's a problem in the country. Then the Minister of Health in particular, in this case is the #1 public health, officer of the nation, should be able to confirm, early to the people that, yes, there's a problem, so that people will not think that it's Jide Idris is making problem on the CD or somebody else, that this is real, that there is a problem on ground and it could actually affect, the people. Even the COVID, some states in Nigeria denied its presence until, it started devastating them, including my own state. They just thought it's a joke until they now saw that more people were dying, the graveyards were busy with burials and so on and so forth. So then the most important thing is the right communication. If the Ebola came and people were there, and there was no easy and cogent explanation. People were looking for answer. What is killing? What is causing the problem? We don't want to die. We want to know what to do. If you don't give them the right, listen, you create gaps. And some of the traditional, listen, or some other people who are practicing, non-orthodox medicine, they can feel it. They can say, if you bath with salt, even this HMVP will not come, will not affect you if you do. But even bathing with salt, drinking salt can also kill. But people don't know. So to intervene and get the right information, to the people is the best way to prevent all those other bad ones coming in and to create big problems. They could be as dangerous as even the HMP, the pandemic itself. Then, as he said, if myself, for instance, you say, please give me advice on how to, educate people on how to prevent HMPV and so on and so forth. I'm a virologist, I'm a medical doctor. I'm not expert in communication. So you really need people like you, the experts in communication, to work with us. We tell you why we need this information. You will work it out and then start communicating and spreading and letting people to know that this is going to happen. As we are talking now, I'm sure there are so many doubting Thomases. They will say, oh, they have come again. This virus is not this and that. They just want to make phone money. They want to this and that. So that the type of story that goes out there until it starts becoming serious.
All right.
Sorry, Professor Dasidi. We're always quick to dismiss our traditional medicine or herbal medicine. And I know there is an arm at the Ministry of Health. I think it's Department of Pharmacology or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But we cannot, I don't know, should we dismiss the efficacy of, some of our herbs that have been clinically tried and proven to, help address issues of flu, cold, catarrh and all that? And how can we mainstream such into our preventive and treatment, system?
Actually, I'm somebody who believes so much in traditional medicine. What I'm saying is that, even what they have can be misconstrued and, if not, presented normally, can cause trouble. Then secondly, the difference, if I ask you what is the difference between poison and drug, you will tell me, they are different, they are distinct. But actually, the difference between poison and drug is the dosage.
Overdose.
Dosage. So most of the drugs we are taking are poisonous. But because they have been clinically tried, a specific dose is there and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, some of our traditional medicine, unlike the ones in China and India, have not been, dosed or, put in such a the way it should be. But I'm very happy that a lot of traditional medicine institutions are working on that. They are bringing, the type of, traditional herbs and all, and giving the dosage you should take so that you don't get harmed. If you are having cold and it's already reducing your immunity, and you indulge in taking some of the traditional medicines, and then you overtake it, you will see that you will have more complication than those who don't take it, and you don't want that to happen. So the traditional drugs are just there to ameliorate the symptoms that you're going to you'll be having when you're infected.
Many thanks, Professor Nasidi. Because of time, we're rounding off the conversation now. I'd like us to get to Dr. Jamiu. You spoke to us and you said children are more susceptible to this disease. You said from 1 to 5. But speak to us about what you think mothers can be doing, to prevent their children from coming down with this virus. Will immunization help? Are there routine drugs that can be taken? I hear that mothers now give malaria drugs even before their children come down with malaria. Is it that they should start treatment of HMPV, somehow before it comes? I mean, just speak around this because that's becoming a culture.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we should encourage self-medication. And what is available, you made mention of malaria. I think that's a vaccine for malaria. If they should take that, I think that is quite, but when they are not, are being infected, I don't think it's a good practice. We should try to discourage that. Regarding this virus, I think the best thing to do, one of the public health measure where they can take is to ensure that children at this point do not share toys, because the virus can spread through sharing of objects and also contamination of surfaces. So through exchange of toys or phone assets and so on, I think those are good mediums by which the virus can be spread, even among adults. So I think mothers should try to do that. Then, in case any child, develop any symptoms suggestive of maybe of cold, like cough, difficulty in breathing, and so on, I will advise such mother to visit any of the nearest health facility for proper evaluation and so on. So they should not embark on self-medication or management. They should visit a physician who will evaluate and ensure that that child is fine. So that's my advice. And again, in case in a home somebody is coughing and so on, the proper measure is to ensure that that person maintain a proper cough etiquette, ensuring that if it's possible because of the child, there may be need for such individual to wear, I'm talking of adults, to wear face masks, ensure proper hygiene as been mentioned, and ensure that issue of sharing of objects and so on should be discouraged at that time. Then finally, the virus has also been implicated to be that has also been found that the virus can be spread through sharing of cutlery like spoon, fork, and so on. So those are areas I think we should ensure that we discourage that in our home, especially when eating, maybe having when there is a kind of opportunity for such kind of situation to arise. Thank you.
You didn't add prayers to the list of things that could be done, because I mean, the Nigerians have a way of dealing with issues. Should prayers, going to prayer houses, will it solve this?
No, I don't think that will do that. Well, we need prayer, but not for these that are these are medical issues. Ensuring that we follow the issue of medicine is scientifically proven, and I think we should try to encourage that. Well, I can't discourage anybody from praying. Prayer is very important at all times, but God has given us the wisdom and understanding for us to take care of ourselves. So I will advise follow the normal protocol. Yes, thank you.
Dr. Jamiu, thank you. Let's take our final question from the NCDCDG. And I know you've hinted at the diplomatic, issues that may arise, but we must also look at our surveillance and tracking capacity, and how we can achieve, make it even more effective at this time. We don't have to wait until we are on the red alert, before we activate, these systems. What needs to be done now in terms of surveillance and tracking? What are you doing now?
The system is ongoing, and different types of surveillance systems. Basically, you are tracking data, especially now data on disease generally, specifically on HMPV. One is event-based. Now, you listen to events all over the country, whether in schools or whatever it is. You track all these things, tracking them and documenting.
It's ongoing now.
It's ongoing. I mean, surveillance is an ongoing thing. You have community-based. You go into the community, expect stories like this, or if you know, there's a high number of people falling down with respiratory illnesses, you send people there to go and investigate. It's part of the surveillance. Now, we're going beyond that. We are doing environmental surveillance. Now, environmental surveillance is going to different, we can go into sewage systems, look at some water sources and that kind of thing. There are a lot of germs or organisms residing in those places that we're living amongst them. People do not test them. So that's part of their testing now. They're going to the back of typhoid fever, polio. That's how, what do you call it, polio, this is part of polio again, was detected. So we're emphasizing on that environmental surveillance. Now we're piloting using university professors, people listen. And now we're going beyond that, genomic sequencing and testing. This is faster, looking at the genetic makeup of various virus diseases. And that's how again can detect now, put up these variants. That's why they discovered different variants of COVID. Yeah? And now categorize them variant of interest, variant of concern. But these are ongoing.
This should require fundings, and Inri alluded to that earlier on.
Interesting. When she said aren't being funded well, I just laughed. Frank, that's for just 5.7% of the total national health budget.
But that's the highest that we've had.
It's the highest. It's totally inadequate. But we also understand that the economy is not right. As much as the government of the day is prioritizing health, we also know what is constraining them. That's why they are dependent on, again, to donor agencies to assist us. But over time, when the economy improves, I mean, say this is the highest now, so it's gone higher than before. It's going to go higher, especially when you start showing tendency. So that's why I say that. So this requires technology, and we're acquiring this technology gradually. That's why towards the end of last year, we developed the genomic sequencing strategy, national genomic strategy, because we know the importance of this. It is faster. Before, when Dr. Nasidi was trained, we used to use a microscope, look at diseases and that kind of thing. Now you don't do that. You look straight into the genetic composition of that disease. You can characterize, this is what this. You can even predict using information technology. Those are the things that we are going into because.
DJ, you know, we're rounding off. We're out of time. You speak like we're very prepared, but I want you to tell us: does the NCDC?
Let me
just a minute.
We are not very prepared. We are prepared. There are also gaps we need to fill.
Okay, what should we do? What are those gaps really? What are the problems that NCDC is facing at the moment that may affect how we respond to this virus?
One, funding. That's not about that. Two, we have workforce. We need more workforce because we're even losing the ones we trade. They're all related. There's no doubt about that. You understand me? We need technology too. We are going to acquire. We need information technology. We need to modernize our systems. Yeah. More importantly, again, we need to support the sub-national level, states, local governments. because this is where those capacities are deficient. They need to be trained. You know. So that's why I'm saying that yes, we are much better than we were when we started. There's still a long way to go. So don't say we are very prepared, but we are better prepared than we were before.
That's a very good note to round up.
You understand me? So let's not paint a rosy picture. We are better prepared than we were before. But we are doing everything possible again to improve on our preparedness.
All right. Professor Abdusalam Idasidi, Pioneer DG, NCDC, I'd like to thank you very much for being part of our conversation.
Thank you.
Let me also appreciate Dr. Jamiu, who is an epidemiologist, joined us from Lagos. Thank you very much. And of course, Dr. Jude Idris, DG, NCDC. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that we'll be having to see you more often again, as long as this HMPV thing subsists.
It won't subsist.
We hope it doesn't.
I said as long
it will disappear.
If in case. If it
does. We are 8 outbreaks in this country right now.
Yes.
That are even killing more people.
Yes.
The last one you mentioned, the traditional
medicine.
Antimicrobial resistance is also a major problem.
It's a big one.
So,
all right. That's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you for watching and for always keeping a date with us on the program. It's been one full week, and January 2025 is almost gone. Please, let's do this again.
Did you say almost gone? There are 40 days in January. I'm January, John. Thank God it's Friday. Enjoy your weekend.
You almost confused me.